Solving rational expressions in Algebra 2. So now we're going to start solving these crazy fractions. The first thing we want to remember is that our goal is to get the denominators to be the same still. So looking at number 1, I have 4x over x minus 1 equals 20 over x minus 1. Since my denominators are the same, I can go ahead and just cross them out. So once we cross our bottoms out, the denominators, you're left with 4x equals 20. Then, to solve for x, divide each side by 4, and we get x to equals 5. Here's the most important step though, and here's where it becomes kind of Algebra 2. Our denominator was originally x minus 1. We need to take what we find x to be, so in this case 5, and plug it back in. So we get 5 minus 1, and 5 minus 1 is 4. So that means it's okay. The only time it is not okay is if you plug it back in and you get it to equal 0. So, since we plugged it back in and we did not get 0, we can say x equals 5 is an answer. Now, looking at number 2. First, look at the denominators. Are they the same? No. So then I have to see, can I factor them? Well, I have x plus 2, and I can't factor that, so I'm going to put it in parentheses. Then I have x squared minus 3x minus 10. That I can factor. I'm going to cross that out because I know I can factor it. And I'm trying to figure out what multiplies to a negative 10 but adds to a negative 3. And it was negative 5 and positive 2. So we get x minus 5 and x plus 2. So since this denominator has two sets of factors, x minus 5 and x plus 2, we need that first fraction to match it. So that means I need to multiply this first fraction by x minus 5. And if I do it to the bottom, I have to do it to the top. So now, since I have my denominators the same, x minus 5 and x plus 2, I can cross them out, which leaves me with 3x times x minus 5 is equal to 3x squared minus 60. So here I'm going to distribute because now I'm solving for x. So I get 3x squared minus 15x equals 3x squared minus 60. Now, since I have x squareds, I know I need my problem to equal 0 before I can solve it. So to equal 0, I'm going to subtract 3x squared, then I'll subtract 3x squared, and I'm going to add 15x and add 15x. So these all cancel, and I'm left with 0 equals 3x squared minus 3x squared. That also cancels out. Then I have negative 60 plus 15x. These are not like terms, so we're left with positive 15x minus 60. So since we got rid of our x squareds, we do not have to factor. We just need to solve. So we're going to add 60 to both sides. We need to get everything away from x. So 60 equals 15x. Divide by 15. And we get x to equal 4. But again, we have to check it in our denominator. And our denominators were x minus 5 and x plus 2. So if I take this 4 and plug it in, I get 4 minus 5, which equals negative 1, which is okay. Remember, any number except 0 is okay. So here we're plugging 4 in, 4 plus 2, which gives me 6, and that's okay. So that means x equals 4 is my answer. Then we can go to problem number 3. And again, if this is going too fast, make sure you pause or rewind the video. First I check, are my denominators the same? No. So then I have to make them the same. And I do that by factoring. X plus 7 cannot be factored, so we put it in parentheses. X plus 1 can't be factored, we put it in parentheses. X squared plus 8x plus 7 can be factored, because what multiplies to 7 and adds to 8 is 7 and 1. So I'm going to cross that out and write my new factors of x plus 7 and x plus 1. Now we need to make everything the same. Because this one has two factors, x plus 7 and x plus 1, everyone needs the same thing. So this first one has an x plus 7. It needs x plus 1, top and bottom. This middle one just has the x plus 1, so it needs the x plus 7, top and bottom. Now I have all of my factors and all of my denominators to be the same, so we can cross it out. And we're left with, well, we have 1 times x plus 1. So if I distribute that, I still get x plus 1. Carry down my plus sign. 3 times x plus 7. I'm going to distribute that and get 3x plus 21 equals 38. And since there are no x squareds, I just have to solve like I'm in Algebra 1. So I'm going to combine my like terms. So I have x plus 3x, which gives me 4x. And I also have 1 plus 21, which gives me a positive 22. Still equals 38. Then to solve, all we have to do is subtract 22, which leaves me with 4x to equal 16. Divide by 4, we get x to equal 4. And again, I need to check my denominators. And for number 3, my denominators were x plus 1 and x plus 7. So if I plug 4 back in, you get 4 plus 1, which equals 5, so I'm good. Then I get 4 plus 7, which equals 11, so I'm good. Since it works, we can put a box around it. Remember, the only time you don't put a box around it is if you plug your answer back into the denominator and get the number 0. And we have number 4. So it's the same process. I'm checking my denominators. They're not the same, so I'm factoring. Well, I can't factor x minus 4, so I put parentheses around that, and x plus 3. X squared minus x minus 12 can be factored, so I'm going to factor that to x minus 4 and x plus 3. Then I need to make my denominators the same, because remember, this one now has two factors of x minus 4 and x plus 3. So the first one has the x minus 4, it needs the x plus 3, top and bottom. My middle one has the x plus 3, so it needs the x minus 4, top and bottom. So now everyone has the same thing. We can cross out the denominators. And we're left with 2x times x plus 3 plus, well, 1, again, if I distribute, it's just going to give me the same thing, which is x minus 4 equals 3x squared plus 2x plus 2. So now I have to start to simplify. I'm going to distribute my 2x and get 2x squared plus 6x. I still have plus x minus 4 equals 3x squared plus 2x plus 2. Then I want to combine my like terms. So I have 6x plus x. So this now gives me 2x squared plus 7x minus 4 equals 3x squared plus 2x plus 2. And I still have x squareds, which means I need it to equal 0 before I can solve it. So I'm going to subtract 2x squared from each side. I'm also going to subtract 7x. I'm going to add 4. So on the left side, these all cancel. I'm left with 0 equals 3x squared minus 2x squared gives me 1x squared. 2x minus 7x gives me a negative 5x. 2 plus 4 gives me 6. So I still have an x squared, which means now I need to factor to solve. So what multiplies to 6 but adds to a negative 5? Negative 3 and negative 2. So when I factor this, it becomes x minus 3 times x minus 2. Then we need to set each factor equal to 0. And we solve from there. So if we add 3, we get x to equal positive 3. Add 2, x to equal positive 2. Now the last step is to check my denominators. And my denominators were x minus 4 and x plus 3. So I'm actually going to come down here and check them. So I had x minus 4 and x plus 3. So first let's check the 3. We can do 3 minus 4, which gives me negative 1, and that's okay. We also have 3 plus 3, which gives me 6, and that's okay. So x equals 3 works. We also need to check 2. So we get 2 minus 4, which gives me negative 2. That's okay. Remember, any number but 0. And then I get 2 plus 3, which gives me 5. So that works as well. So for number 4, we end up having 2 solutions.